afternoon. Appreciate you guys being here. Wrapping up our last padded practice, finishing off a 2-minute like we always do on Wednesday before we have our mental sweat Thursday, and we're going to head on out tomorrow. Okay, so we're leaving here tomorrow. Normal processes for us. We're just getting there a day before, acclimating a little bit, and just making sure we're at our best come game time on Saturday. So that being said, questions?
What's the status for KT and Saturday's game? Have you guys figured out yet?
Well, still day by day. I'm trying to get there. Not there yet, but hopeful that we will be.
You mentioned that guy can't practice. It's hard for him or for the betterment of the team if the guy plays. Is he able to take part in anything during the week?
We'll see. It's still early in the week. We're doing some things, just not doing a whole bunch. We're being, I wouldn't say cautious. We're just doing the right thing to make sure that as we heal, that we're healing at the right pace, and so that we can be available as soon as we can possibly be.
You'd said that Drew's obviously out for this week. He had posted yesterday indicating he had surgery. Is that something that's going to be longer lasting, or?
Could be. Certainly it was. We got nicked up pretty good on Saturday, so those are some things we got to deal with, and some things we get them out to you as soon as we can. Others require some evaluation, and other things we just hold. It's just out of respect for our players and respect for our processes. So I appreciate, if you guys always let me get that to you as best we can. I'll be more than willing to answer whatever questions that you have. I just sometimes I will be a little bit guarded just to protect our team.
You always practice with artificial noise, Mario. That's a given. But this is a different kind of venue in that it's bigger than, other than Bennett, who played there as a freshman, Joe, who coached there. You've obviously been in big buildings, but nobody on the team, no players have been or will be in a building of this size, of this noise. How do you try to replicate that as close as you can?
Well, you prepare for it, like you mentioned. You make sure that everything you're doing in practice prepares you for a situation where verbal communication is really probably not an option, right? And so that's part of our processes anyways. And at the same time, you make sure that you don't make it something bigger than what it is. If you're not prepared for it, it's a really big deal. It is. Home field advantages are real in college football and in the NFL, especially if you don't prepare for them. If you prepare for them, you'll do a good job. We feel confident in our processes.
I think CJ and Travis were the only running backs to play on offense at least. Are you guys going to expand to 3? I know you used Cyrus or a third back in the past. Is that something you guys have to earn that, or kind of where are you at with the running back rotation?
Well, we'd like to play as many guys as we possibly can that have earned the right to play. We feel some guys are right there at the cusp. Sometimes the flow of a game dictates who's going to get in and when they're going to get in. So now we feel really confident in those guys, and I feel like Trey's right there as well. So and backs, sometimes during the season they get dinged up, they get banged up a little bit, and you got to play a bunch of guys. So we're not holding anybody back at the moment. We just think those guys are proven veterans that have practiced well and played well, and they deserve to, when we go out on the field, they've earned the right to go out there and lead us out in our first couple of possessions and decide from there.
Third down passing in particular this past week, obviously there's a couple of misses, but even on the completions, just not a lot of conversions. Just what did you see in looking back on third down in particular? Obviously it's a money down, always is.
No doubt. We got to be much better on third down, and we weren't as efficient as we want to be, especially not early in the game. Combination of things, right? Sometimes it might be a little bit off in protection. Throw might be a little bit off, route might be a little bit off. We weren't in sync. We've worked really hard this week to get in sync. We felt we had a really good passing game in the summertime, in camp, I should say, in the spring, and leading up to game 1. We had our moments with some misfires, or I would say some missed opportunities on some other ones, and collectively we're responsible. We got to coach it better, protect it better, throw it better, run it better from a route standpoint, all that stuff. So get in sync, get on the same page, because the passing game is about timing and precision. You got to have it all.
Chris Hudson made an unexpected start last Saturday, and there's been rumblings that he might be the fastest guy on the team. What can he bring to the table this year?
Well, he's been playing really well. He started in place of Troy, who got nicked up during the week, but we felt like we wouldn't skip a beat with Chris. Chris has had a really strong, I would say, almost 4 weeks straight where he's had a tremendous, not only opportunity, but he's really grasped the offense. Technically, fundamentally, schematically, has really done well, and he's been put in situations in practice to make big plays, explosive plays, and he has. And he's also, he's not a big guy, but he's thrown his body, and there's been a really good blocker, an effective blocker, and gives a lot of effort in the run game when the ball cuts away and he's got to get downfield and affect the safety or whatnot. So really proud of him. He's continuing to grow and develop and elevating his status on the team, so we expect more big things from him.
You talked about Ohio State's the line play in particular, but defensive line, they made some big plays, but they have obviously a lot of disruptive players, a lot of depth. particularly against the run. Also, I know they got hit for a couple of big plays, but what do you see in terms of just the challenge? Do you compare them to what that 19 opener was in Auburn or Utah a couple of years ago in terms of just their physicality?
I do. Just really explosive and stout inside, just thick, explosive bodies that not only are capable of stopping the run, but their pad level is so good. They're technically so sound. They're really strong with their hands. They get their feet in the ground. They penetrate. When you watch line of scrimmage play by them, they're knocking people back all the time. And they're really good pass rushers as well. They're not one-dimensional players, so they don't have to really sub much. But they do. They have a lot of good players. On the edge, they're just long, athletic, and explosive. Really long, athletic, and explosive. Their get-off is elite. So they always get. They seem to have a first-step advantage on the tackles they go against. You see a lot of people trying to chip them, use their tight ends of protection to try to help tackles. They've got a pretty fair amount of counter moves as well. These aren't one-dimensional speed rushers. They're speed of power. They come underneath. They use their hands really well. Just all in all, an elite defensive line.
Beyond whatever competitive advantage may be, if their outside corners can't go, what just from an advantage in terms of last week, the opportunity to see a freshman on film that you wouldn't have had film of before. That's all right. You don't want to see Seven Banks miss a game or the other guy miss a game, but you got a chance to see some guys who hadn't had a lot of tape to look at before.
Well, I think playing teams like this, you got to count on there's not going to be much of a drop-off. The guy that's playing is probably backed up by a great player that has been recruited and has been developing in the system, or just got there and is capable of stepping in. That's the way a program like Ohio State has recruited over the years. So we don't expect any drop-off really at any position, whether it's a guy that's just starting to play now or a guy that's filling in for an injured guy.
Ben said yesterday he didn't think he and Jamal were competing for the job because they'd be sharing time. What goes into the decision to play one of those two? Is it situational? Is it based on practice reps? Kind of how are you going to decide who plays there?
Well, Bennett's he's earned it. He's earned the right to start the football game, and Jamal has worked his way back into being able to play. So it feels like they're both sharing the position. They're sharing reps and whatnot. They both need to be playing at their best for us to have success. They're both really good football players. They welcome competition, which is part of our culture. It's a really big thing for our people to embrace that, instead of some people get intimidated by that, or they buckle, or they feel a certain kind of way. It's good to see those two guys are all about it, and they're going to help us win.
Some of the young tight ends with Terrence and Mo got some action on Saturday. Can you just talk about kind of what you saw from them and how that introduction is going to help them this weekend maybe?
Yeah, well, credit to Mo. Mo was banged up going into that game as well. Took a shot on a Wednesday practice, but just found the way to get ready and get out there and practice, and was able to go in the game. And Terrence as well. Both those guys have had great camps. While a couple guys were nursing some other stuff, they stepped up and they played well. They've earned the right to play. Now, that being said, everybody's getting better. Spencer Webb has gotten better. Cam is now healthy, so his role will increase as well. DJ also, got in there and did some really good things. So those body types are hard to find. They're critical in every aspect of the game, on offense, on special teams. So you'll see all those guys playing in relation to those two guys you had mentioned. Just really proud of those guys. Those guys are great football players, and they're babies. They just got here, and they're already playing on the big stage, and I don't see any flinching from them.
All through fall camp, Ken and Tim talked about the depth of this linebacker group and how nice it was just to see them that deep. If Drew is going to be out for a longer term, how do you feel about that group? Should the depth be needed?
Well, you don't like to lose guys, certainly. So guys got to continue to develop and be ready to step up. That's what we're in. We're in the season now. There's no going back. There's no injured reserve or a talent pool you could grab players from and come on in. So we're going with who we got. We feel confident we can get guys ready to play football. And they've learned a lot of football. We get equal reps just about everywhere. So whether a guy is exactly, precisely ready to go or not, guys are going to be thrown in and they're going to have to play.
Drew, last question. With Drew out for this game, who is behind Justin if Justin needs to come off the field for any reason?
Well, we got a couple different options that we've been working with there, and I know you've seen Nate go in there, you've seen Keith go in there, you've seen Jabril a little bit, Mike. We've got a slew of guys that we've been running in and out of there, and we have a plan too, an emergency plan in case something else happens. So I guess the bottom line is, when guys get dinged up or when you face that situation, you ever want it to happen. You feel terrible for a guy like Drew that's worked as hard as he has and come back for a 6th year. But you prepare and you're ready to go with whatever you got.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Okay, thanks guys. Appreciate it.